So now, drum roll for the grand prize. This is a really special project and special company. I've been following them for a long time. So the winner is Global Himalayan Expedition, and it's for their microgrid in the Himalayan village of Butmis. What this company does is they trek into the far reaches of the Himalayas to villages that aren't even on the map. You can't find them on Google Maps. These are villages that are not electrified and never will be except by this kind of means. There will never be a grid there. And they bring them electricity for the first time. And they're bringing solar panels on horseback to get to these villages. But it's more than just electrifying the villages. They also empower the villages. They bring to them a business model. The villages, after getting electricity, form a kind of a homestay or Airbnb type business where people can now come visit the villages. They also make a point of training villagers to operate the microgrids and maintain the microgrids. So it's truly local community energy. So this is a wonderful, wonderful company, wonderful project. I think they've done over 130 of these projects so far, and they're still going. They say they have a lot more to do. I am going to, in a moment, put on a video of an interview I did with the founder, Paris Lumbas, who was in New Delhi, so was kindly at some crazy hour agreed to do an interview with us. I'm also going to direct you after the interview to take a look at Microgrid Knowledge, where we have posted an article about all of these projects. So you can read the details about these projects. So now I am going to begin an interview, which I think you're going to find really interesting, where Paris Lumbas from Global Himalayan Expedition tells us about his work. Hi, I'm here today with Paris Lumba, and Paris is the founder of the Global Himalayan Expedition, the top prize winner of this year's Microgrid Greater Good Award. Congratulations, Paris.
Thank you, Lisa. It's such a good feeling to be recognized as one of the remoter microgrids for the Greater Good Award. I mean, we've been trying for many years now. It's good to actually get the award this year. Thank you so much.
Well, we're very happy that you did. You and I have been talking for years now, and I've always been so impressed with the work that you do. So this was you've done many projects in the Himalayas, but this was for one in particular, the Butmis project, Butmis village. Tell us a little bit about this village and the project.
So, I mean, it's been 8 years for Global Himalayan Expedition, on the short form, you may call it GHE, working in the Himalayas. And out of the 131 villages which we have electrified, Butmis village was electrified in 2017. And this village is located at 14,000 feet above sea level. And it is home to almost 70 households. And it requires, I mean, in the winters, this area is cut off for 6 months because the passes are covered with snow. So you can't reach this village. So we did this village just before the winter set in, and the village was going to be close to the outside world. And the whole village was first identified. These villages are not even on Google Maps. So if you search for Butmis, you will find a village called Tambis, T-A-M-B-I-S, because Butmis is still not known to the world, right? So the way we say is wherever the road ends, that's where GHE starts working. And we do the villages which are not on the maps. So first we identified the village in 2017 earlier, and then we got a consent from the villagers that they don't have access to energy. So they would be very happy to see if we can do some kind of village with that. And then we went back, we made a grid configuration. This is the DC microgrid, not AC, because our configurations are DC based because they are safe. And in these areas which are very remote, you don't want someone to get a shock and it becomes a fatal injury. So we work on energy efficiency. It's all about, getting to the first mile and the last mile and the first ladder. So the DC microgrids for this village was configured. The cost was taken out. And then we went ahead to find a partner. So we had 2 partners in this project. One is the local renewable agency called the Kargil Renewable Agency, and a CSR supporter called the Aisha Group Foundation. They make these bikes. And with those support, we were able to get the funds in. Then we asked for the villagers' support in terms of transportation of the materials because it was getting cold. And in, I think, 5 days, we were able to electrify almost 75 households. And we set up almost like 20, 21 DC solar microgrids. So between every 4 to 5 houses, we used to have one DC microgrid at 24 volts. So we had multiple clusters of microgrids. And till date, it's been 4 years. The microgrids are running absolutely fine. Amazingly, these are community-based microgrids. So they are maintained by the community. They have a service center. So over these years, the villages have kind of made enough money for maintenance, and the maintenance has been happening through the local service center, an entrepreneur which we have trained. And now the villages have kind of scaled their microgrids on their own. They have street lights now. They have DC LED television. So it's been a very sustainable energy access story for us.
That's wonderful. And of course, this is just one of many projects you've done. What was the total number of projects you've done so far in the Himalayas?
So, I mean, it's a slow growth, but we are working in the remotest areas of the world. So over the last 8 years, Elisa, we have electrified 131 villages, 131. Yeah.
131. That is very impressive because this is tough work. So tell me a little bit about the logistics of actually getting the solar panels up to these villages. How do you do this?
I mean, I think more about technology. It's all about identifying the right village and trying to see whether the community wants it or not. Our model is based on a community-based approach. So I'll just give you an idea. How do we make this happen? So we first focus on an area, and then we find the mayor of that area, a councillor, we call it in our terms. The councillor says, in my area, I have 30, 40 villages. Then we ask him the name of the villages. He says, yes, these are the name of the villages. And we say, we want to physically visit them. And then we take a mountain guide, travel for days and days, and sometimes even weeks, cross mountain passes, sometimes go on the horses, and then visit these villages, take the GPS coordinates. The engineer who visits it tries and makes a small configuration, and then we come back. And then once we come back, we have multiple approaches to electrify the village. One is either do an expedition with travelers, which is one approach, either find a CSR sponsor, or the third is use the government support, because the government cannot access these villages because there is no road. So over these 8 years, we have identified so many of these villages. We have trekked to these villages. Some villages have been electrified through expeditions, some through CSR, and some through government support. Now, all these villages which we have electrified, they all are DC-based microgrids. And the interesting thing is, for every 10 villages we electrify, we have a service center. Because, the story takes a different turn when you electrify a village. But when you do a post-service after you electrified the village, that is most important. So we train an entrepreneur, we do a seed funding for a service center, and we make sure that the person makes money and the village contributes on a monthly basis, every household, so that over the 5 years, when the battery conks off, they have enough money to replace the batteries through the service center. And interestingly, because these are very beautiful villages in the most exotic areas of the world, what we also do is we set up homestays, which are like, you can say, guest houses in these villages, so that trekkers or travelers like you and me, they can actually book homestays of these villages through Airbnb or booking.com. And that these ways, these make income generation for these households. With that money, they can maintain those villages. So it's like a virtual circle we have created over the last 8 years.
Fascinating, fascinating. It's true community microgrid, truly local energy. And you've created a business model to help the villages economically so they can maintain the microgrids. And grow economically. That's just phenomenal. And we get to go up there and see these amazing villages. Probably wouldn't have done in the past with no electricity. And no homestay or anything to get us there. That's really fascinating. Incredible project. So you founded when you founded GHE, you had a vision. What is your vision? What would you ultimately like to achieve?
So I'm an electrical engineer by qualification. So in 2012, I went to South Pole, very close to South Pole, to a place called Antarctica, where the South Pole is. I was truly inspired by the whole journey and the climate change issues happening that time. I came back, I thought, if technology could advance humanity. I mean, of course, Elon Musk is talking about going to moon, but even in the remote Himalayan villages, we don't have a light bulb. So there was a difference in equity. I said, I like traveling, I like adventure, and I'm an electrical engineer. The best I could do is, travel, enjoy, breathe clean air, have glacial water, clean water, and then at the same time do an impact for the community. And I didn't want to do it alone. So I thought, why not launch an expedition so that people from all over the globe, they come and join me and electrify the village. So that was more like a volunteerism program So over these 8 years, we have taken people from more than 65 countries and around 1,300 travelers, or I would say change makers. So this was the approach, use technology to create an impact. And over these years, it's become viral. The technology is totally open source. Whatever we install in these villages are designed and contract manufactured by us, so that we can do a quality control, and also we can make sure that the villagers can repair on their own. So it's more like a virtuous circle. We electrify a village, stay for 2 years, and then we move out. That's the full idea.
So how many more villages to go?
Endless. We have identified villages in Madagascar, in Southern Africa, Eastern Africa, looking in Mongolia, somewhere in Central Asia, and also you would say in Indonesia and Nepal. So in India itself, we have more than 500 villages, which we plan to electrify. So by end of this year, we would have done 20 more, and next year we plan to do 100 more villages next year. So it's like, doing 100% growth next year. And with this electrification, this is all based on multiple grants and CSR support and traveler. But we are also trying to work out a financing mechanism now through entrepreneurs, so that it becomes a lovely story. So for us, any beautiful area in the world which do not have electricity, that's what we want to go to and electrify and create homestays and make it and actually stop migration of these people. And that's the whole idea. Basic facilities lead for people to stay, the culture remains, the migration stops, and that's what you would want.
Because the younger folk are tending to leave those villages, correct? Because there's no power.
Absolutely. And tourism brings livelihood for these young folks. So when you electrify a village, you get homestays, they want to stick back to the villages, they want to earn more, and they are very innovative in making sure that they can add more features. Once you set the baseline of energy access, you can add multiple applications on top of it. You have no idea how the ecosystem evolves. It's all about giving them that baseline energy which they want, and then the world happens.
It's wonderful. Well, thank you. I mean, this project, your work, is just a perfect example of what we want to highlight with the Greater Good Award. So thank you. Congratulations on all your good work. And thanks for being here at Microgrid 2020 Global.
Thank you so much, Elisa. It was a pleasure talking to you.